The Batflip podcast is starting in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Batflip podcast. I am Matt here tonight with David. Damien is away tonight, so it's just gonna be the two of us. And we got an exciting episode for you tonight. We are going to be talking about the WBC World Baseball Classic, which is coming up starting, I believe, like Friday. Is it Friday?
Yep, March 5th.
So just a few more days for that. We love the WBC. It's an exciting tournament they have every couple of years. So we'll excited to talk about it. But David, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Excited for some baseball. Been kind of perusing spring training a little bit too, and it's spring, right? Everything's kind of looking up in the sports world, right? Everything's starting. And in terms of baseball, man, I'm quite excited for the season right now, and looking forward to this World Baseball Classic tournament. Love having baseball on at like weird hours because they'll be playing in Japan.
Yeah.
We'll get to see some early morning baseball. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I guess before we start talking about the WBC, you did mention spring training is kind of fully underway. Have you had any early takeaways from spring training? I know we didn't really prep this, but just kind of something to throw in there.
I think it's important to note that spring training is almost entirely pointless to try and figure out.
Just don't tell Bob Nightingale.
Yeah, there's very little you can pull from early spring training results, right? Like, I don't care if a pitcher's getting lit up. I don't care if a pitcher looks great. I don't care if hitters are going crazy. It's a different environment. It's a different situation. People are working on specific things. What the team feels is important, right? For each individual rep is what's important. And what's really cool is seeing some of these young guys get to play. That's kind of also cool for the World Baseball Classic. We're going to see a lot of like prospects being able to play with major league players on these World Baseball Classic rosters, and that'll be really cool. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm excited to see some of these young guys getting a chance to show off with major league teammates and get some experience in big league camp. But for the most part, as long as people are healthy, I'm happy. In terms of spring training.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know when different players might be, not really trying to put up numbers. They might be working on some things. Every player does it differently, and some guys trying to make rosters are trying really hard. And if they get blown up, it might be a little bit different. So, but it's very hard to have takeaways on individual players or teams this early. I will say one takeaway I've had is that the ABS challenge system has been very good so far. Yeah. One note on the spring training numbers of that are that a lot of minor league umpires do spring training, so the numbers are probably skewed as to how many times those challenges end up happening because the minor league umpires are not as good as the major league umpires for the most part. But it's been good to see, and I think it's going to add some some much needed legitimacy to the game, and I think it's a very good thing, especially on egregious calls. So
we already think we liked it before, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of confirmation. It's been a success so far. There hadn't been a lot of hiccups with it. It seems to be pretty timely when you get a challenge to get the call in as it should be. Everything's been pretty good with it so far.
Yeah, it's basically going to be a guaranteed success. I'm very excited. They've obviously pulled time of game down so much to this point that I don't think the extra, say, 20 or 30 seconds per challenge is going to really affect that overall time of game that much. You're not really losing anything. Plus, it happens so instantaneously that it seems like everything is going according to plan. I'm just interested to see what happens when we get it into these major league stadiums, onto the big video boards, bigger crowds, and stuff like that. It should be seamlessly applied, and I'm real intrigued to see how the value changes, right? Because there's going to be guys who are terrible at challenging, and there's going to be guys who are really, really good who are stealing challenges all the time, and that's something we are not thinking about right now. That is going to be a big deal, I think, down the stretch and down the way throughout this season, because those are the kind of challenges you want to have those late in the game. And we've already seen guys like burn their challenges in the first little bit of the game in these spring training games. It's like, you're at least practicing to see if you can use those challenges, but also you want to make sure you're getting them right. I just think it's going to be really, really cool to have that in the regular season this year. We'll see if they adjust it. I'm assuming they won't for the season, maybe after the season, but I think there's still a few challenges overall light. As long as you're getting them right, you seem to have enough.
Yeah, absolutely. But where they're not having the ABS challenge system this year is the World Baseball Classic. So we can go ahead and start our talk about that now. I guess before we kind of get into the rosters and the tournament and maybe some predictions at the end, I think it's important to talk about what this does for the game. I think that, and I think there's no other good example of it than what the Olympics has done for the NHL over the last couple of weeks, and how much attention that's gotten around the world, and how much that grows that sport. And international competitions always bring out a lot of fans who are just trying to rally around something in their countries.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of learn a sport as it goes. I know so many people who have been talking about hockey for the last 2 weeks that don't watch hockey. And I think that the long-term hope for me is that the WBC can become something in that nature. I don't think it'll ever be as big as the World Cup or as the Olympics, but something where people in some of these countries that we're going to talk about that have teams do start to pick up the sport from that. And growing the sport worldwide is nothing but good for it. I mean, we've seen what it's done in the Caribbean. We've seen in Asia how big baseball's gotten and how good that's been for the sport. If it wasn't for the sport being spread around the world, we wouldn't have a Shohei Ohtani. We wouldn't have had an Albert Pujols. We wouldn't have a Juan Soto. We wouldn't have had so many countless players around the world that have come to the U.S., played Major League Baseball, and have just been so much fun to watch. So I think continuing to grow the game worldwide is such a big deal. But David, if you want to give a few thoughts on it too, I'm really passionate about trying to grow the sport worldwide, and I think it's a really cool thing.
No, I'm with you. You know, it's important that specific aspect is important, but also the aspect of warming up for the season, right? The placement of this, where you're not, you know, for the most part, these guys are not going to hurt themselves. You know, they're ramping up, so a lot of these World Baseball Classic teams are cognizant of that, especially with the pitchers. It's freak when things like the Edwin Diaz incident happened a couple years back. You know, in the last one, he towards ACL, I think. You know, that's a freak thing. We don't usually see injuries from guys playing really hard, but we have seen this help a player season. We've seen it kind of start a player off cold. I think Trey Turner, when he signed with the Phillies, he was off to a really bad start, but had a crazy good World Baseball Classic, right? So it's very much it's something that kickstarts the MLB season in such a way that provides that meaningful baseball, the meaningful playoff atmosphere you get in October, but it kicks it off in lieu of some of the spring training games where only the most hardcore baseball fans like us and those watching are almost certainly we're loving this right now, but you're going to pull in the casual fan for those meaningful games down the stretch, and you're also going to pull in these hardcore fans who are going to be on the edge of their seat every pitch. So I'm excited for it. I will say the way the spring training has been broadcasted by major league teams and organizations to this point has left a majorly sour taste in my mouth towards the opening salvo of this season, where I think we have such a massive ability to see things these days. You know, the information web, we should be able to see spring training games to some extent, right? Even if there's just a live feed of the game going on and just a camera out in center field or something, like we should be able to see what's happening for our team each and every at bat. And the fact that so many teams just do not have broadcasted spring training games this year is really, really bothering me. And I think at the very least we will have these World Baseball Classic games where you'll get to see some meaningful competition, and you won't get to see those players, those developing players, those young players, but like we said, some of them are on these World Baseball Classic teams. So that'll be a nice respite from kind of just like not having anything to watch because no one's broadcasting the spring training games.
Yeah, I mean, I know that this year is really weird too with the TV situation going on with so many teams. Although some teams have decided to just go ahead and figure that out.
Right.
But yeah, so a couple more notes on the WBC. The players in the WBC are eligible for their teams in different ways on how they can play for which team. So they have to be citizens, permanent residents, born in a country, or they have to have at least one parent or citizen who is a citizen or was born there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily not all these players were born in these countries, and I think that's one thing that in the future I would like to see more of is homegrown talent from different countries. One of my favorite teams to watch has been the Czech team, because the Czech team is 100% Czech players and not Americans who have a parent that was Czech. And I think that's really cool to see because, you know, in a lot of ways, the WBC in the Caribbean and the U.S. is, you know, everyone's playing for the team that they, you know, where they were born, or, you know, both parents are citizens, and but, you know, around the world, I'm sure if you went and asked somebody in Europe if they'd ever even heard of this tournament, they would say, well, who's playing for Team Italy? And it would be like a bunch of Americans. And they'd say, well, that doesn't, you know, that doesn't count. So I think that in the future, adding some more of those players would be a really good thing. And another thing, too, with the WBC, and this is kind of the last thing before we get in the preview, but and we'll talk about some of these players, but it shows off players. I remember last time the WBC happened, they had very first game was Cuba pitching, playing against, I don't remember who they were playing, but
Taiwan. Yeah.
Taiwan, yeah. Yariel Rodriguez started for Cuba, and nobody had ever heard of him. He had been pitching over in Japan or Korea for a couple of years, and Yariel Rodriguez pitched. His stuff looked incredible. And then he got signed by the Blue Jays, and he's been a big league pitcher for a couple of years now. So I think that's kind of the type of stuff you can see in this tournament. It's good exposure for certain guys, and it's good exposure for the sport in other countries. But I guess we can go ahead and get started here. So, David, do you want to explain a little bit about the format and how the pool play is structured and everything?
Yeah, so there's 16 teams, 4 pools, Pool A, B, C, and D. And these teams, it'll function a little like the College World Series if you were with us for our preview episode of that each year, where these teams will play each other in a round robin. So they'll play each other team twice. The two best records from each pool will then advance to a 8-team tournament, you know, winner take all, seeded 1 through 8, and then they'll play head to head. Winner moves on, losers go home, with a culmination of the best 2 teams who won their 3 finals games going against each other. You know, last couple of years we've seen USA and Japan be pretty dominant in this. We'll see both like the Puerto Rico and DR teams be really strong as well. But it's a fun tournament. The pool play is going to be where I think you get the little more wacky scenarios, the more the players being on display and stuff like that, and then we'll get the kind of superstar moments in that later tournament with the 8 teams at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So pool, as you mentioned, there's 4 pools. I guess we can start talking about Pool A. So Pool A is going to be Canada, Panama, Team Puerto Rico, and Team Colombia. So I guess we'll go through each team and just kind of give some highlights of their roster, and then we'll maybe talk about who we think comes out of these pools. So for Pool A, start off with Canada. Does anybody on the Canadian team stand out to you? It's a lot of big leaguers, a couple of good big leaguers. Josh Naylor obviously is there. Tyler O'Neill's been a good big leaguer for a while. Bo Naylor behind the plate. You know, Otto Lopez has been good. Edward Julian had a horrible year last year, but he's been good at times.
Yeah.
So anybody else stand out to you, David?
Yeah, Logan Allen, if he makes any starts, should be really strong as a pitcher. He's the Guardians starter there. And then I'm really excited to get a chance to look at Team Canada, because I want to see Owen Casey take his first steps with the Marlins and try to put something on the board. He had played for Team Canada last time out. Got to be a teammate with Freddie Freeman and some of those guys. I don't see Freddie on here this year, but
not playing.
Yeah, so it's a team that's a little bit diminished, I think, from its prior successes. But Team Canada should be an interesting team. Got a lot of those, like you mentioned, some of those younger guys like Bo Naylor, Tyler Black, Edward Julian. I'm just interested to see if some of those guys can't ramp up a little bit with this and maybe turn it into a really successful season, because some of them are more journeyman type players that could make a name for themselves in a tournament like this.
Yeah, and I'll mention I actually think Canada's team's a little bit better than it has been in the past couple of WBCs because I think the pitching's a little bit deeper. You mentioned Logan Allen. James Paxton is pitching, which is interesting. I don't know how he'll do, but you've also got big league pitchers and Jamison Taillon,
I
who's a
don't
good big
know if
solid.
I don't know if Tyone is going. He
He
might be, but I don't know.
he's on the roster, so I don't know if he ends
Yeah,
up. Michael Soroka is healthy this time.
maybe.
And
You never know.
Michael Soroka is currently planning on pitching and is healthy, so we don't know if
He
it'll
should
last
be fine.
long, but yeah, and Cal Quantrill as well as a big league pitcher.
Too.
But I remember last time I think they ran out a couple of like college pitchers in some games, and I think that is going to help Canada here. But I guess we can move on and talk a little bit about Team Panama. I do not know much about Team Panama here. They have I think they've got a few big leaguers: Christian Bethancourt, Miguel Amaya, Jose Caballero. They've got Jonathan Arouse. They don't have a ton of current big leaguers. They got a couple other guys: Johan Camargo and Ruben Tejada, former big leaguers. Oh, they got Edmundo Sosa as well. But is there anybody you have here to keep an eye on, David?
Yeah, Miguel Amaya, who has spent the last couple of years as the Cubs either catcher or backup catcher with Carson Kelly. He should be a fun watch. He'll probably hit cleanup on this team, if I'm being honest. That guy hits the ball really hard, but I'm just not seeing a whole lot of damage to be done throughout the lineup. Carlos Lee is the hitting coach, former Astro and White Sox great, thorn in every Cubs fan's side for many years. That'll be cool to see him in the dugout. And this we talk about teams that can kind of contend. I don't believe this will be one. There should be a fun little group. I also want to shout out Enrique Bradfield, who is the Orioles former first-round pick. He'll be in the outfield for this team. He's a speedy guy. Should be real entertaining to watch. See if he can't maybe get on, steal some bases, and maybe play some really good outfield defense for him as well.
Absolutely. So I guess we can move on and talk about the next team here, and that's going to be Team Puerto Rico. Team Puerto Rico seems to be fairly down from what they have been. We're having some issues of getting the clearance for a few of their guys to play. I know Carlos Correa wanted to play, but he was not able to get the insurance that the team wanted him to get. And also Francisco Lindor is not playing for
he got hurt, right?
Puerto Rico because he got hurt. He injured his hamate bone.
Yep.
So that's a huge loss because that's a superstar in Lindor and a guy who has at times been a superstar in Correa, who when healthy is still pretty good. So, and those are kind of your star players here for Team Puerto Rico. But they still got some good pitchers. Edwin Diaz is there. Their bullpen's going to be good. They got him, Fernando Cruz. They've got I don't know that this team's got the same kind of They don't have the same roster that they've had in the past.
Now, juice is definitely down for the Yadier Molina managed Puerto Rico World Baseball Classic team. Though they did pick up Nolan Arenado, who is not playing for the U.S. for the first time in, I think, the World Baseball Classics history. So he's moving over to Puerto Rico. Some really interesting prospects. Edwin Arroyo going to be making his debut in this one. That might be it, really. But MJ Melendez is trying to make the Mets roster as well. He's kind of intriguing. See if he can't come up with some stuff. I do think at its baseline, this is a team that should win enough games. They should be able to beat, I think, Team Canada and Panama enough to get into the next round. But I think this is a first round exit from the second round for Puerto Rico, where I would have otherwise probably picked this team to go all the way in a normal year.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about our predictions in a minute because I might be disagreeing a little bit on that one. But yeah, we'll talk now about Colombia. They're the fourth team here in this pool. Colombia is kind of interesting. They have a few pitchers that are interesting, as in Jose Quintana, David's favorite pitcher. And
interesting is a word for it.
My favorite pitcher, Julio Teheran.
There you go.
It's pitching for Team Colombia, which is kind of cool. It's good to see him back out there. A couple of interesting guys. Gio Zuniga, I believe is how you say his name. He was pretty interesting a couple years ago. I don't know if I don't know where he's at now. Luis Patino is a former top prospect, so they've got a few good pitchers. Their lineup's not great. They got Jorge Alfaro in there, Donovan Solano, Gio Urshela, or former, either current or former big leaguers. I think Gio Urshela might have gotten a minor league deal. I don't remember who it was. And then Harold Ramirez has had some good big league time in the outfield there. But anybody else here stand out to you for Team Columbia?
Yeah, one Michael Arroyo. He's the Mariners
That's right.
shortstop,
Yep.
second base hybrid kind of guy. He's a top 100 borderline prospect. That guy could really stand out in this tournament potentially. Other than that, though, yeah, you're right. This Colombia team, this pool itself has felt like it lacks a little bit of juice. Where Puerto Rico is usually the team, I think, that provides that juice. They've usually got somebody in there, but like Javi Baez, I don't think got insurance. Just not enough, I think, in terms of juice for this Colombia team either. We'll be interested to see about Michael Arroyo, some of those major league guys. Julio Teheran pitching again is going to be great, but yeah, this one is this is a tough one, tough look for this team. But again, it should make for a chance to get some no names, some really interesting moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Pool A is going to be played at in San Juan. I think we missed Team Cuba too.
Oh, did I not give a?
Yeah, I think we missed. Yeah, we missed.
no.
Yeah, we missed Team Cuba.
One more.
So Team Cuba it's the issue that Cuba always has, where most of their top players have defected from Cuba and won't play for the national team. It's kind of a political thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have a couple of interesting guys. Yon Moncada is playing for Team Cuba. He was obviously the number one prospect in baseball at one time, has had some good big league years. Yon Lopez is an interesting pitcher who's had some good big league time. That's pretty much that's pretty much the extent. I honestly think Team Cuba might be the worst, but sometimes team guys come out of the Cuban league and are surprised because Cuban baseball is still really big there, and you don't hear a ton about a lot of these guys.
UD Cap is a Marlins prospect who should be kind of interesting shortstop guy. But again, it's like you said, this Cuba team just doesn't have its star players that you would expect from a Cuba team, just because of the relations with the country and immigration and stuff like that. So, tough one for this team, but it's in a weaker division. Should be interesting. I do want to shout out Alexi Ramirez and any Alexi Ramirez fans. He's still playing. I don't. He's got to be 40 now.
That's crazy.
But he'll still be out there. So it'll be cool to see him back in a uniform again.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention Yariel Rodriguez too. We talked about him earlier, but yeah. So Pool A is going to be played in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So that's going to be really interesting to see if that gives Puerto Rico some boost. Because if I were picking this pool, I do not believe I would be picking Puerto Rico to advance. I think I'm picking Canada and Panama.
Yeah, I'm just picking Puerto Rico. I would pick Puerto Rico and Canada. I think overall, Panama versus Puerto Rico should be a good battle. Puerto Rico's got the home field advantage. I'll stick with Puerto Rico pretty easily, but I do think that that's a first-round exit type team. I think both teams from this are probably first-round exits. The rest of this tournament is really strong.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can move on now and start talking about Pool B. And Pool B is going to include Team USA, Team Mexico, Brazil, Italy, and Team Great Britain. So we'll start off and talk about Team USA. Team USA is absolutely, completely, and totally stacked. It has Cal Raleigh. It's got Aaron Judge. It's got pretty much everybody. I mean, Bryce Harper's playing, Bobby Witt Jr., Will Smith, and the pitching staff is ridiculous. Logan Webb, Paul Skenes, Tarik Skubal, Joe Ryan, and I didn't even mention the bullpen that includes Mason Miller, David Bednar. I mean, this team is ridiculous on paper.
Yeah, USA is the preemptive favorite for the tournament, and a lot of the guys that they got are, the biggest superstars in the game, at least that are from the country. I think the biggest issue for the Team USA is going to be the starting pitching. I like Logan Webb. I like Matt Boyd. But Skubal's only going one game. Skenes may not go a whole lot either. So it's just a matter of scrambling together enough starting pitching, deploying your biggest weapons when the time is right for Team USA, but they should be pretty difficult to beat, all things considered. Bullpen should be great. It's going to be about managing the workloads. It's going to be about getting that lineup to gel together a little bit, but I'm really excited what a lot of these guys can do on the big stage. Kyle Schwarber and Cal Raleigh in the same lineup is just, oh man, that's going to be amazing.
Aaron Judge.
Judge, yep.
This seems crazy. So we'll move on. Not too much else to say about Team USA other than I think they're the best team here. But we can talk about Team Mexico. Team Mexico is pretty good. They've got a solid lineup. Alejandro Kirk in there. It's the catcher. You've got a lot of big leaguers. Joey Ortiz, Jonathan Aranda, Luis Urias. Interestingly enough, you've got Joey Meneses, who was a phenom for like a year with the Nationals, and Rowdy Tellez as well. And then the outfield, you got Randy Arozarena, who is, we talked a minute ago about the Cuban players. Randy Arozarena is a Cuban, but he defected to Mexico to get out of the country. So he's playing for Team Mexico. He, is a Mexican citizen, and he considers Mexico his home. So he's playing there as well. So pitching is interesting. Not a ton of names. I know one of your Chicago Cubs is in there, and Javier Assad. Taj Bradley's going to be interesting to watch. A couple good relievers here. Anything to add on Team Mexico?
Jaron Duran is playing in the outfield for Team Mexico as well. Boston's outfielder. He should be very, very good. Got to mention Javi Assad. Javi Assad's last World Baseball Classic outing effectively gave him a major league career. He was throwing 97 in the World Baseball Classic for Team Mexico in that last outing, which effectively gave him a shot to start with the Cubs, in that season. And he's been able to build out a major league career as a swingman starter, but he's got the juice, I think, to be kind of that impact 3-inning guy in a tournament like this, where he's throwing sinkers in on the hands. Those guys are going to have a tough time, getting that ball elevated and trying to drive it out. He could be really, really difficult. I love Andres Munoz coming out of the bullpen for this team as well. Seattle's closer, throwing 100 miles an hour. He should be electric, very good counter to the USA having Mason Miller. This is another really, really strong team that should not only get through this pool, even if they lose a couple games to Team USA, they're going to get through this pool, and they're probably going to have a shot to run deep into the tournament.
Absolutely. So guess we'll move on and talk briefly about Team Brazil. There's not a ton to talk about here with Team Brazil. I don't think they have a big leaguer or a former big leaguer on their roster, if I'm not mistaken. So do you know much about any of these guys? Anybody stand out to you?
Yeah. Dante Bichette Jr., Bo's brother.
Yes.
That's about it in terms of taking a look at this roster. Team Brazil is going to be one where we talked about it a couple of times already, but names are going to get made, right?
Yeah.
So somebody's got to be a hero for Team Brazil. Somebody's going to make a name for themselves, and that's where you get those breakout candidates like Yariel Rodriguez. So, while we don't have anything specific to say about Team Brazil, be on the lookout when the Team USA, when you're watching Team USA play Brazil, somebody might just be a hero and be worth looking at once it's all said and done.
Yep, absolutely. So moving on, we'll talk now about Team Italy. And Team Italy is pretty interesting. A lot of big leaguers here. Most of them are American-born. Pretty much everybody on this team is American-born. There's one Italian-born, two Italian-born players on this team. Actually, there's three. I didn't realize there was a third. So that's pretty cool. But they've got some interesting pitchers here, and Matt Festa, Michael Lorenza is pitching. I didn't realize Adam Ottavino was still pitching. Gordon Graceffa. Yeah. But the big name is Aaron Nola, pitching for Team Italy. And then the lineup's got some interesting big leaguers. John Birdie's a pretty good big leaguer. Kyle Till is catching for this team. Vinny Pasquantino, Miles Mastrobuoni, big leaguer. Jack Caglioni's going to be really fun to watch here. Jacob Marcy is also had a breakout year last year. So, David, what do you think of this team? And does anything stand out to you here?
Yeah, Francisco Cervelli, the manager for
awesome.
Team Italy, with his assistant hitting coach Jorge Posada. So this is very cool. I love that the former catchers out here coaching up Team Italy. Uh, you know, when it comes down to it, this is an exciting team that if you had put them in Pool A, I would have said they would have been the one seed out of Pool A. I think this is the best team in Pool A. This is the third best team in this division, right? That is the issue. I think somebody like Caglione, Teal, Sagesse, Thomas Sagesse from the Cardinals, Marcy, Pasquantino, like there's going to be some big hits made by this team, some big home runs. Probably they're going to have some big moments. It's just a matter of like this team is just not as strong top to bottom as either Team USA or Team Mexico. And that's going to make it very difficult. They're just going to need some heroes. They need somebody to go on a generational run. They've got potential. I think you could very easily tell me Jack Kaggs goes with 5 home runs in pool play and carries Team Italy to a berth in the second round over Mexico. Like that would be devastating for the next Team Mexico fans, right? But it's like there's some big time juice on this team. It's just going to be difficult to overcome the two teams above them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next team to talk about here is Team Great Britain. They're the last team in this pool. So Team Great Britain's kind of interesting. A lot of American and Bahamas-born players here. A couple of guys that were born in the UK. But the pitching's got a couple of guys. I mean, Tristan Beck's been a big leaguer. They've got Vance Worley is still pitching. So that's interesting to see. Dylan Covey, I think, has been a big leaguer. So that's pretty good. A couple of interesting players to watch. Harry Ford, catcher, top prospect, got traded this offseason. Jazz Chisholm is playing for Team Great Britain. He's from the Bahamas. So that's interesting to see. He's going to be fun to watch. He's always an exciting player to watch. And then that's really kind of the extent of it. Trace Thompson as well, brother of Clay Thompson, former Dodger and White Sox. So anybody else stand out to you?
Yeah, I like BJ Murray, who is a Cubs prospect, but he is one of those guys that'll win over a lot of the analytical folk watching. He just puts together a good plate appearance, does a lot of walks, not a lot of strikeouts, plays good defense at third base. He'll probably start for him if I'm being honest. Again, the issue with this team, they've got some interesting pieces, but the issue with this team is going to be the pitching. They just aren't going to have it. I am excited to watch Vance Worley go out there and throw 6 innings of like 2-run ball, throwing 80 mile an hour. Like that's going to be super cool. But yeah, I just don't know that it's going to be enough, I think, to overcome this really strong pool that Great Britain is in.
Yep. He's the WBC version of Brent Suter.
Yeah.
Just always pulling the old throws 6 innings and you don't know how.
Yeah.
But so Pool B, obviously I think everyone's going to pick the USA to advance here. Yeah. Who's your second team? Because I'm kind of torn between I think it's going to be Mexico, but I do think Italy's got a chance.
Yeah, I think Italy has a chance too. Like I said, I think if you had taken either Mexico or Italy through them in Pool A, they run away with it pretty easily. I'm going to stick with Mexico. I think that those guys, the Mexicans tend to just get up for these types of games, these types of moments, right? It's one of those, they're not gonna go quietly. They're gonna have some big time moments, guys. Randy Rosarena is playing for them like that. I just think for Team Italy needing a guy that could step up and have a crazy pool play tournament. Randy Rosarena's done it like 3 times. Like, how do you bet against that, right? So I'm going Mexico.
He's a stud when you're in a tournament postseason style format here. But the Pool B is being played in Houston, so that's another thing. It's probably advantage Team USA, Team Mexico. So moving on to Pool C, we've got Japan in Pool C. That's gonna be the big one. So they're good. It's going to be obviously Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, all the guys that have come over in the last year or two. It feels like there's more and more Japanese players coming over every year, and you'll get a good look at some of the guys. I know that I think a couple of them are not pitching or not playing because they just signed with teams. Like I don't think MI is playing.
No, he's not.
So that's a big one that they're going to be missing. But between Yusei Kikuchi, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I'm not entirely sure if Ohtani, what the pitching plan is for him, getting ready for the season. But if Ohtani pitches a little bit, I know he pitched in the last one, but it was a little different when he was with the Angels. That's going to be interesting. But all these Japanese guys, that league is good, and they can pitch. The lineup is going to be pretty good. It's just one of those things where every time they play, they have a good group and they come over and play, and we don't know a lot of the names, but they end up being really good. So the big leaguers here: Manataka Murakami, you've got Seiya Suzuki, you've got Masataka Yoshida, and then Kazuma Okamoto is. We're gonna get a good look at him. So what's that?
New Blue Jay.
Yep, New Blue Jay. And so it's gonna be interesting. But any thoughts on Team Japan here?
No Shota Imanaga, and they are still probably the second most talented team in this tournament. Tons and tons of talent, top to bottom. Pitching is going to be just it's as good as Team USA's. Bullpen is more unknown, right? Because you just don't know these Japanese relievers. But then they're going to come in throwing 75 from like a submarine angle, and you'll just have no idea. No, they'll never see that guy again. These big time hitters in the Team USA group. So it's just going to be difficult. No Yu Darvish for the first time in a long time for Team Japan as well. But I mean, this is a squad that has won this thing before behind Ohtani. When you've got a guy that good, you look at what the Dodgers have done, right? And him pulling in guys like Yamamoto, and now he gets some of his team, his biggest rivals over in the major league side too. So this is just a great team. It's going to be so tough to beat them, and it's going to be a dogfight when it comes down to the tournament play, where Team Japan and Team USA get seeded, because it looks kind of like it could be the same final that it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think that Japan is the second best team in the tournament, but I think they're number 4. But we'll get to a couple other teams here in a little bit. So we'll talk now about Chinese Taipei. Chinese Taipei is going to be a lot of players from the Taiwanese League, which is the 3rd best league in Asia. I would consider it kind of similar to like high A ball, maybe, in skill set. I know that, obviously the Japanese league's basically between AAA and the big leagues. It's like quadruple A. And then I think the Korean league, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the KBO, is more like kind of between double and AAA in the skill set. The Taiwanese league's a little bit lower level, but these players are all really good. It's a country where a lot of guys play as kids. So a lot of them are really polished baseball players, but they might not be the most talented. So I think just kind of looking at this roster, it's mostly these Taiwanese born players that play in the Taiwanese league. But I want to throw out a shout out to Yu Chang, WBC legend. He always is a big time player in the WBC. He's played in the big leagues. And then Stuart Fairchild and Jonathan Long are the 2 Americans on this Chinese Taipei team, which is interesting. So
Jonathan Long has pulled out. He sprained his elbow
in
the spring training game last week. Yeah,
well, Stuart Fairchild is alone as the American-born player here. But
I was going to be so excited to say Johnny Long, Cubs AAA first baseman, should be a really fun watch. Guy hits the ball all over the place. He is not going to be playing. So poor Taiwan here. I hope they make a run for it. This is a team that can certainly win games, and they've hosted games before in this tournament, but it's been a struggle for them just because the talent pool there, like you said, is just a little bit lower. I think they were kind of finagling the rules a little bit. I think Jonathan Long had one parent or like a cousin or something that was from Taiwan, and it was like, oh, we're just going to get him on the team. They've been doing their best, but it's going to be an uphill fight in this pool.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk now. The next team here is Australia. So Australia is always fun to watch in this tournament because it's mostly Australian or South African born players. I believe they're all Australian or South African born in this tournament this year. So it's kind of the same guys as last time in a lot of places. Like I recognize some of these names. Jack O'Loughlin, pitcher. I recognize that name. I think it's gonna be. I think they're gonna be interesting. Robbie Glendening is a infielder that has had some success in the WBC. We're gonna get a good look at Travis Bazzana, which is interesting. A top pick in the draft, and hasn't fully panned out to what we were maybe hoping for him so far. Although he's still super young, it could still, it'll still, there's a good chance it happens for him. But that'll be interesting to see how he looks in this tournament. Curtis Mead is another big leaguer, kind of. Let's hear. Interesting team to watch. Any thoughts on Australia?
I think Tim Kennelly and Robbie Perkins are both also pretty good. Australian players, but they're playing in the Australian Baseball League. Australia's come to play. They have come to play in this tournament before. I can't recall if they made it to the second round before, but it would be a surprise. But it's also one of those things where Australia has surprised before in this tournament. So I would not be shocked to see a Glendening or a Perkins or one of those guys make a big time name for themselves in this tournament. We've seen some of these pitchers be sneaky good. It's an exciting group that we really don't know about because they play on the other side of the world. So if you're looking for a team that's going to make a name for some unknowns, Team Australia is kind of the one to root for because it's almost entirely comprised of guys that you are not going to see again this next baseball season.
Right. So we could talk very briefly about Team Czechia. Team Czechia has a bunch of players who played in the Czech League, and which I think is awesome. I think that's super awesome. A lot of them have kind of fundraised to come to the U.S. or they're going to I think it's Japan is where those games are being played in Pool C. In the Tokyo Dome. So they're going to be playing in Japan. So they had to fundraise to get there. A lot of them have day jobs. Very interesting to watch. And they do have a couple American-born players on their team, but it's not anybody that is a big, somebody you would really know too much about. Anything stand out with this team?
No. Taran Vavra is a name I recognize from. I think he was in the Orioles farm system for a long time. But
yes, I do recognize. I think he made his big league debut. I think he played some last year.
Cool.
But I do remember that. But
again,
do you remember?
Go ahead.
Do you remember the name of the player that struck out Shohei Ohtani in the last WBC and became a star from that?
No, I know who you're talking about. The guy who was
he was like, I can't believe it struck out Shohei.
Just throw struck out. That's the kind of stuff I love, and that's what I'm excited about. I don't remember his name because he's not a baseball player. He's just a guy.
He's just a guy. Well, he is a baseball player, but
he came and played.
But he kind of plays. It's almost like playing men's league baseball.
I love that,
maybe not men's league. It's like indie league baseball or something. Yeah.
But I still love that. That's awesome. That's the kind of story that I want to see out of this tournament.
It's very cool. So the last team here in this pool we'll talk about is going to be South Korea. So South Korea, a lot of KBO guys, a few guys who are not KBO, some big leaguers. Hyunjin Ryu is pitching, which is very interesting. It's cool to see. Woo Suk Go, the greatest name in the history of baseball, is pitching here. He's been in the big leagues. Dane Dunning is pitching for Team Korea. So he's been around a while in the big leagues. Unfortunately, Ha-Sung Kim, the Braves, Ha-Sung Kim is injured, so he's not playing. But you get Hae-Sung Kim, the Dodgers infielder, that's going to be playing here. Jung-Hoo Lee is going to be playing here as well, along with Jemai Jones. I did not know he was Korean. So that's interesting, but
his mom's Korean.
But yeah. That's how he has to get the eligibility for it. But out of all these KBO guys, does anybody stand out to you?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Jung-Hoo Lee can do. Obviously, San Francisco's looking to move to a corner outfield spot. He's been hurt, but this is the kind of tournament that a guy like that kind of shines. Right, a lot of contact, a lot of that little sneaky pull side power. where he can kind of make a big name for himself at the top of a lineup. And then, I want to see Hyun-Jin Ryu pitch again, man. I think that'll be fun. He's got to be 42, 43 now. Like, come on, get him out here. Let the lefty eat. I think I'm excited to see that. This Korea team is not. It's nowhere near as talented as the Japan team, but it's in a spot where I think the whole pool is pretty weak, with the exception of Japan. I think they're going to be playing versus Taiwan and Australia for that second pool spot, and it's going to be some really, really competitive games. I'd probably lean Korea as the favorite, but it's a tight race. I think you could certainly make an argument for Australia in this case, and feel pretty confident about it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I don't know. The thing about the South Korean team is that the ability for them to play tough competition compared to most of the Australian players on a year-to-year basis I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that like I said, South Korea, we've had players come out of the KBO or go to the KBO and come back who were pretty successful in the KBO, translate pretty quickly to the big leagues. So I trust that league a lot more than the Australian league. So I think I'm going to go with South Korea as my number 2 team here in this pool. Watch out for Taipei a little bit. Yeah. They always perform well in these international tournaments. So that just kind of watch out for them if someone's going to pull an upset here. But you're right. This is one of the weaker pools in this tournament. But I think Pool D might be the strongest pool in this tournament from top to bottom. Pool D is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it'll be it's either pool D or Pool B for the total talent. But I'll be contrary than you. I will pick Japan and Australia to make it through. We'll say Australia has some heroics from some unknown guys.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Some of those Australian guys, and they are able to overcome South Korea. Though I think your logic is perfectly sound. I think South Korea is probably the favorite to make it out of this group. But this is probably the 6th seed in that second slot to both of the Pool A teams that make it out. I think Pool A is probably the weakest group, but yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll talk now about Pool D, the final pool here. And the first team we're going to look at here is the Netherlands. So the Netherlands is a very interesting team. Not a ton of well, first off, the Netherlands consists of mainly players from Curacao and Aruba, which are part of the Netherlands territories in the Caribbean. So that's where a lot of these players have come from. So like some of the most famous players in baseball, including their manager, now Hall of Famer Andrew Jones, is from Curacao. But pitching wise, they've got Kenley Jansen is the big one from Curacao. He's obviously maybe a future Hall of Fame reliever. Had an incredible career. He's still pretty good too. So that's someone to look out for. I don't know a ton about a lot of their other pitchers here, but moving on, they've got a lot of big leaguers on this team. Chadwick Trump at catcher. Ozzy Albies from Curacao is on their infield with Xander Bogaerts. Didi Gregorius is playing, which will be interesting. Their outfield, they've got Ceddanne Rafaela and Jerkson Profar. Also Drew Jones, who was a top draft pick, although he really hasn't performed well in the minors. So it'll be cool to see him. His dad is coaching the team, so or managing the team. So that's cool. But anything stand out to you out of these guys?
I really like. I mean, they have a bunch of major leaguers. I think those are the guys you're going to want to look out for. I am interested to see if Drew Jones can't maybe get some of that prospect status back with a few big moments in this series. But I don't even think he's probably going to start all that much. This team is pretty good. Yeah. I think they're kind of buried in a really good pool, right? This is another team. There's a couple of teams that I've mentioned that I think if you chucked them into Pool A, they'd probably go out and win Pool A and have a chance in that second round. It's just tough for them to be playing against some of the teams they're playing against here. But, this is a good group. They typically are. The Netherlands is typically – they have to find pitching somewhere, right? You mentioned Kenley Jansen, but there's really just not a whole lot else. And this is where we have to kind of – they almost bend the rules a little bit to try to figure out who's eligible to pitch. But this is where you get some heroics from some unknown guys, and that's what I think Netherlands is going to need to rely on in order to maybe make an upset run here in Pool D.
Yep. Yeah, and they only have – I believe one player that was not they've got two players who are not born in a Netherlands territory. Drew Jones, who is, his dad is obviously Andrew Jones from Curacao, and then Derek West is also playing here, and I assume one of his parents is from the Netherlands. But yeah, so we can move on and talk about a team that I think is close. I think this is the closest team other than to the DR in the USA. We'll talk about the DR here in a minute, but this is Team Venezuela. Team Venezuela is awesome. This lineup can go up against just about anybody. They've got William Contreras, who is a top 5 catcher in baseball. Their infield's got Eugenio Suarez, Gleyber Torres, Wilson Contreras, Michael Garcia. This infield, Luis Arias is probably going to be DHing or be on the bench. This infield is sick. Ezekiel Tovar is pretty good too. Andres Hammond, this infield is crazy.
Yeah.
Their outfield, they've got Ronald Acuna Jr. and Jackson Churio. Wilyer Abreu is a good player as well in their outfield. This team is really good. Salvador Perez is going to be on this team too as a catcher. So if you need a home run late in the game, you might be able to get it from him. This lineup is nasty. Pitchers are interesting. Ranger Suarez is a really good pitcher. He's going to be here. Behind him, you've got a couple interesting guys in Keider Montero, who was a top prospect for a while. I don't know if he's still. I haven't kept up with him too much over the last year or two, but he's kind of interesting. The bullpen should be good. Daniel Palencia is going to be here. Angel Zerpa is a guy that I think we've liked at times over the last couple of years.
Got traded to the Brewers.
Yep. Edward Bizardo. There's a lot of good. There's some good relievers here. Eduardo Rodriguez is also going to be here as a starter. We'll see how he looks like. He didn't have a great year last year, but David, is this team close to the USA and Dominican Republic?
I don't think so. I just think the pitching is going to be such a big time issue for them. You mentioned the lineup. The lineup is spectacular, right? It's full of really, really good players, but they just do not have the pitching. And I love Daniel Palencia. I love Ranger Suarez, but who are you going to throw? You got to throw 10 games up. Ranger Suarez can only pitch in 2 of them probably, and he probably can't go deep into those games. He's not going to be able to hold that water. I mean, the U.S. isn't going to have to rely on Tarik Skubal to go 6 or 7 innings in these games. Like, they're just going to struggle to put to hold the other teams off. And the advantage, of course, is they're going to score a ton of runs, right? This lineup is really good. But I am very concerned with when it comes to getting to the level that the other teams are. And this is why I would have Team Japan over it, because I think Team Japan's pitching is either it's the best or the second best pitching, and you put them right on par with Team USA. Their offense is more questionable, right? Because most of them don't play in major leagues. Yeah. This whole group is major leagues, right? We got major league lineup straight up 1 to 9, right? So we're very confident this is a good lineup, but the pitching is so much worse. I mean, there's a lot of holes. You're open. Antonio Sensatella is going to be a good starter for you here, and we'll see.
Yeah,
it's a good lineup. I think it's real likely they get out of this. They come out of this pool with a chance to win the first game, but they're just going to give up too many runs.
The thing that I'll say about Team Venezuela is that when they get into games in pool, if they make it out of the pool, if they manage it properly, they could have Ranger Suarez going up against one of the top teams. And if Ranger Suarez is their starting pitcher, and a couple of the good relievers they have, like Daniel Palencia and Angel Zerpa and some of these guys, they can upset a team with that lineup. They can outscore a team because I think those pitchers are good enough to. Now, if you're talking about having to pitch 5 days in a row, and that 5 starter might not be there, but I do think that they've got enough pieces to maybe. Go ahead.
They also have coaching. They do have coaching.
Oh,
They have Robinson Chirinos, the bench coach. They have Miguel Cabrera, the hitting coach.
Yeah.
Gerardo Parra is the first base coach. Johan Santana is the pitching coach.
That's wild.
And Victor Martinez is the assistant manager. So much major league talent on the team, in the coaching staff.
Yep.
In as much as I don't like the overall pitching numbers, I do think this is a group well built to have success in this tournament.
Yeah. So gonna be very interesting. But we'll talk next here briefly about Team Israel. Team Israel has a few big leaguers on it. You got Dean Kramer as a pitcher here, Rob Kaminsky. You've got Matt Bowman, I believe has been a big league pitcher some. Tommy Canley, a longtime reliever. Not a ton of great pitching. Some good guys in their lineup. Garrett Stubbs has been a solid backup catcher for the Phillies for a while. Matt Mervis, going to be interesting to see him here. Spencer Horwitz was a big trade guy last year. Pretty good prospect. Harrison Bader playing outfield. There's a few big league guys for this Team Israel, but not a ton of upside here, in my opinion.
It's what happens at just about every year, right? Team Israel comes in with some, I would call them bet rules, but it's the same kind of thing where we've seen, kind of these guys kind of getting in with these loose connections. But then you look at the pool they're in. You got some intriguing guys, some heroes maybe, but it's going to be so difficult for a team built like this in order to cross the boundary of being competitive with the team that we just talked about, like Team Venezuela and then the Dominican Republic that's coming up. Like, it's so difficult. I do like getting a chance to see Spencer Horwitz in an environment like this outside of Pittsburgh. I think he could be really, really interesting. But, I think Brad Osmus, who's the manager, you got Kevin Youkilis on the coaching staff, Mark Loretta is on the coaching staff, Jason Marquis is on the coaching staff. I just think these guys have their work cut out for them. It's going to be quite difficult for them to make a run in this tournament, but intriguing names, a team that's probably just going to be out in pool play, but with enough firepower to maybe make a name, maybe have a moment, we'll say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So guess we'll talk next about the team that I think is the second best team in the WBC, but there might be some people who think this is the best team. That's going to be the Dominican Republic. They have their pitching is. I don't think their pitching's as good as Team USA, but it's good.
Yeah, it's really
good. They've got Christopher Sanchez, who I believe was runner-up for Cy Young last year. They've got Brian Bayo, who's hoping to have a breakout year for the Red Sox. Luis Severino, good pitcher. The bullpen is Sandy Alcantara, who we'll see, but he's been a former Cy Young winner there. The bullpen's really good. We've got, this bullpen is nasty. Carlos Estevez, Abner Uribe, Camilo Doval, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto. This bullpen is awesome.
Yeah.
Huascar Brazaban, Albert Abreu is really good. Like, this bullpen is nasty.
Dude.
And then, the rest of this team, the catchers, that might be a weak spot. Augustin Ramirez had a pretty solid rookie year last year, but he's not, really a star. Like, when you put him up against Team USA, which is who we're going to be comparing Team DR to, he's not Kyle Raleigh.
Or Will Smith, right?
Or Will Smith.
Yeah.
Austin Wells isn't either. Austin Wells is pretty good, but he's not either one of those
They're
guys.
good, but they are the weakest part of this team, which is saying something, because those are two interesting catchers.
But when we move on to the infield and the outfield, it's just a bunch of studs. Junior Caminero, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Manny Machado, Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo, Jeremy Pena is ridiculous.
That's an all-star team.
Absolutely, it is the all-star team. I think every single one of those guys were all-stars last year, except maybe Junior Caminero, just because he really came on in the second half, but he hit like 40 home runs.
Was Perdomo I believe
so. I believe he was. I'm not 100% sure, but he was like
Perdomo made it.
He was like top 5 in the National League in WAR last year.
Yeah,
like it's ridiculous. I guess they put Ahmed Rosario on here for pinch running or something. Carlos Santana for the vibes, but then their outfielders are crazy. Julio Rodriguez, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr. That is their outfield.
Yeah. Their backup is O'Neal Cruz.
He's their fourth outfielder.
That's absurd. Yeah.
And then if you need a pinch runner or defensive replacement because Juan Soto can't catch the ball, you got Johan Rojas, who is an insanely good defensive player. So this team is absolutely stacked.
Yep.
Are they? And I think my answer is going to be no, because of the top end pitching, are they as good as Team USA?
They're right there, right? It's
close.
it's them, it's Team Japan, it's Team USA in terms of the best teams in this tournament. This team might have a better line. It is close, man. This is what we talked about at the beginning of the show, where we were saying like the stars are coming out this year. I don't think we've seen a collection of stars quite like this season, where we've got on Team USA, we've got on this Team Dominican Republic, what we've got in Team Japan. Like you've got some really huge stars coming out to play in this tournament, and it's really exciting. Depth wise, I mean, having great players for a short stint doesn't really help you, right? Because some of these guys got to ride the bench. But this group is insane. Led by Albert Pujols as the manager, by the way, with bench coach Placido Polanco. So super fun, old names for the old heads like me. But I mean, you're right. This group is insane. You're talking about Team 1B to the U.S. as Team 1A in the tournament, maybe 1C with Japan as well. But I mean, yeah, this group is stacked. I think the superpower group in the lineup might even be a little better than I was thinking, where the pitching is you talked about the Venezuelan lineup. It's really good. The pitching was lacking. This pitching is extremely good. I think Abner Uribe is about to. I mean, I think he kind of made a name for himself in the playoffs a little bit last year, shutting down the Cubs a couple of times. But at some point, that guy's going to get his name on the stage, the national stage. It might be in this tournament. We're shutting down either USA or Japan to go to the final. He throws 100-mile-an-hour sinkers, and they are unhittable. And it's just kind of. He's just kind of nasty, and he plays for the Brewers, of course, because they always do. But
they always do.
He's really, really good. So at some point, he's gonna have a moment, right? And I'm thinking the starters are great, right? Just a lot more reliable than some of these other teams. We're gonna have battles like Yamamoto versus like you said, Christopher Sanchez, or like typical NLDS, NLCS battles, basically. With these teams, it's gonna be really, really fun.
And I'll get into this in a minute, but I think Team DR clears Japan by so many miles. Even though Japan has Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I don't think it's even close. And I think obviously Team USA I feel the same way about, but Japan might end up winning because they always perform well at the WBC.
I'm telling you, you cannot count out Japan.
We'll say this too: anytime you have single elimination baseball tournaments, anything can happen because it's just. I don't think Israel's winning this pool, but anything can happen. So, but very
one more team.
Yeah, very very good there. But yeah, moving on to the last team, who is probably not as good as Israel. We're gonna talk about Nicaragua. Nicaragua has a few big leaguers. Carlos Rodriguez is a big leaguer for been with the Brewers. JC Ramirez is a former big leaguer in their pitching staff. I mean, they've got a few guys. Chesler Cuthbert, Jeter Downs, who interestingly enough was born in Colombia and is playing instead of playing for Colombia, playing for Nicaragua. I don't know what's going on there, but they've got Mark Vientos, who that's going to be interesting. He needs a bounce back year really bad, but he's had some success in the big leagues at times. So, and then the guy with the best mustache we've ever seen, who was a star in the last WBC because of the mustache, Juan Montez. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember him, but it's awesome.
Let's go. Well, managed by Dusty Baker Jr. Team Nicaragua is going to encounter some troubles, I would imagine, with the Team Venezuela and Team DR.
Poor starting pitchers are going to throw their arms off.
Yeah. We might get some heroes, right? That's kind of the way, right? These teams without these top end players you're hoping for some heroes, some names to be made. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be uphill sledding.
Yeah, it really is for these guys. So, but yeah, that'll wrap it up. That's our 20 teams of this WBC. That's all the pool plays. So, kind of to wrap up, I think we both had. I
guess we didn't pick Pool D. But I think we're probably in.
Well, yeah, I think we were in a good agreement of DR and Venezuela coming out of Pool D.
I would not put it past the Netherlands to sneak past Venezuela, but I think the lineup
That
for
would
Venezuela is probably too
absolutely stun me if the Netherlands found a way to beat Venezuela. Pool A, I think we both picked Canada, and I believe I picked Panama, and you picked Puerto Rico to advance, right?
good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pool B, I picked USA, and believe I picked Team Mexico, and I believe you picked the same. If that's
Yes.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Pool C, I picked Japan and South Korea. You picked Japan and Australia.
Yep.
Pool D, we both picked Venezuela and the Dominican Republic. So gonna be interesting for pool play. Again, it starts on Friday. Lots of games are gonna be early in the morning too, being played in Tokyo. So
Mm-hmm.
that'll be interesting. Something to watch on your once you get to work. I probably shouldn't say watch it on your commute because that's kind of dangerous. But once you get to work, something to watch as we're waking up on Friday morning. But I guess we can talk briefly about kind of predictions for the knockout round and and who's going to win this thing. So, David, who do you think is going to be in the finals, and who do you think is going to win it?
Well, it comes like I've been talking. It comes down to 3 teams, and it comes down to how the draws fit with those 3 teams. It comes down to USA, Japan, and DR. Whoever has to play each other in that knockout round it's super unfortunate, right? Because they can't all make it to the finals. Somebody's getting knocked out before the finals. I refuse to underrate Japan. I think somebody's getting knocked out before then. It's funny enough. It's typically DR is almost always like this stacked, right? It's all the same players. They're almost always this stacked.
Yeah.
And they almost always get knocked out by either Japan or USA in that final round. Before you get to the finals, I think we've had Japan, USA as the finals the last two World Baseball Classics. I'm not going to stray from that now. I'm going to stick with Japan, USA. I'll say USA gets revenge for the last one, beats Japan in the finals and I'll say it's because Japan used like Yamamoto to get past the DR to get there. That'll be how it goes.
Yeah. I've got the U.S. winning as well. I think it'll be the U.S. and the DR. I think Japan loses in the semifinals unless they run into Venezuela. I think Venezuela is the third best team here, in my opinion. So Japan is a great baseball country, and they won last time. But I think that was a pretty big upset with them winning last time. And I think their team last time out was better than their team is this year. They still have Otani, they still have Yamamoto, but last time out they had Yu Darvish as well. And Yu Darvish played a big role in that. And I believe they had
him high too.
Yeah. So I think
I just don't think you know anything about Japanese baseball.
No, Japanese baseball is excellent. I mean, it really is.
You just don't know. You just don't have a frame of reference for the players and how good they are because we just haven't seen most of them, right? We know how good Seiya Suzuki is. We know how good Otani is. We know how good Yamamoto is. But beyond that, it's a lot of mystery, and that's what makes them so good year in and year out. And I just trust that consistency from that team. They are always that good. But again, I do think that it does boil down to who gets drawn against the DR and the US in that final round, right?
Yeah.
Because if Japan would have to get the right team, or potentially if DR and US end up facing each other in that semifinal round, that will completely change the complexion of that final game because you would say that one of the 2 most talented teams are just not there. And suddenly it's kind of a David versus Goliath situation with teams trying to knock out the most talented team, right? So if it's DR US, it's going to be an all-timer, one for the ages, a giant versus giant. But then there will be some of that David versus Goliath stuff if you do get any other team, basically, versus one of those big giants.
Yeah, and I think that what'll put the U.S. over the top is that pitchers actually decided to show up for the U.S. this year. I know Tarik Skubal's only making 1 start. But I think Paul Skenes is going to be a big deal here in this, being able to pitch in the knockout round. And then you got to remember, Joe Ryan as well, being Logan Webb. I mean, they've got, even without Skubal pitching past the pool play, they've got some studs to run out there on the mound, and I think 3 of the best pitchers in baseball right there.
Right.
Plus the depth is good too.
Right.
Matthew Boyd's been good as a starter. You got, and then Nolan McLean was a breakout player last year, and then you've got your bullpen's got Mason Miller, Griffin Jacks, David Bednar, Gabe Spire. These are some of the best relievers in baseball, and to top it off, they got Clayton Kershaw. So
yeah, they do.
I hope it'll be really cool. It'll be really cool if he ends up pitching.
I mean, I'm sure he will, but once the US is up,
I bet they'll probably run it. Well, they might run him out there in pool play against somebody
for sure.
He might be pitching against Team Brazil, but
I will kind of close with as exciting as it is. I understand why Tarik Skubal is stepping back, and I definitely understand if some of these bigger name starters are on an innings limit, right? I wouldn't expect any 6, 7, 8 inning appearances from these guys. Think that it's understood by these organizations that these big time starters are still ramping up. They're still getting ready for the season. I really wouldn't expect anybody to go out there and throw 6 or 7 innings at this point. You just kind of have to adjust your expectations. I know I would rather see 6 or 7 innings of Paul Skenes and Tarik Skubal, right? Versus Yamamoto, but you're just not going to see that. They're rampant for the season. Their health is more important, especially for Skubal, who's in a contract year, needs to stay healthy. But the fact that he will give one of those spring starts to Team USA, I think is big and should be fun to watch.
Yeah. And I will, guess one more thing to add, you were kind of mentioning, we probably should have mentioned it earlier about the pitching and guys ramping up and everything. There are rules, like strict rules in the WBC about pitching. In the first round with the pool play, it's only 65 pitches starters allowed to throw, or 80 pitchers allowed to throw in a game, 80 in the quarterfinals, and then 95 in the championship rounds. And then you get 50. If you have 50 plus pitches thrown, you have to get 4 days of rest. And if you throw at least 30 pitches, you have to get a mandatory 1 day of rest. So you can't throw back-to-back days.
That's good. That's good for.
Yeah, you can't throw 3 consecutive days. So a reliever could throw like 20 pitches one day, 20 pitches the next, but they couldn't throw 3 days in a row. So they do have some pretty important, some pretty big rules here.
And that's why you need a lot of depth, right? And that's why we talked about the U.S. has maybe more depth than it ever has when it comes to that pitching staff.
And there's also a mercy rule. 10 runs after 7 or 15 after 5. So
we're going to see that one used.
I think we might see that one. When USA plays Brazil,
USA and DR are going to.
When DR plays Nicaragua, it might get ugly. So we'll see. But yeah, any final thoughts? I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for us.
I'm excited for some baseball that means something.
Yeah.
Spring training is cool, but again, everybody will watch it because they aren't any games on. So it'd be good to have some games on cable TV so we can watch them.
Absolutely. And I'll close with saying there was one thing was said this week by Gunnar Henderson about wanting to try to get, the Olympics are in Los Angeles in 2028. He wants to try to get Major League Baseball players in the Olympics. And I think it's going to be really difficult with that being mid-season. And it's harder to do something like what the NHL just did with an all-star break, basically coinciding with the Olympics, because, you can't sit down for 3 weeks.
Right. If you're not playing. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it might be something they try to work out. It sounds like there's a lot of player push for that, the ability to do that. So,
and what would have to happen?
I think that would be wonderful.
What would have to happen is,
you'd have to take a 2-week All-Star break and play.
They would have to extend the All-Star break a little bit, maybe to a week, but then you'd have to say, hey, if you're going to go play the Olympics games, then we'll cut your salary by whatever it is this year, right? Because you say you're paying a player $15 million for 162 games. Well, okay, you're going to play. You're planning to miss and go to the Olympics, so you're going to play 20 games less this year.
One very interesting part of that could be if the players try to push for that in the CBA to kind of force that time, because that's coming this offseason, and that could be a pretty easy bargaining point for Major League Baseball to give in on.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened with the NHL, with them being able to play this year. Was the last collective bargaining agreement, they forced that, said that's a non-starter. If you don't let us play in the Olympics, it's a non-starter. And
It's good
if,
for
if
that.
the
Yeah.
players want to do it that badly in baseball, then they could probably get that concession out of, because the chances of the player getting injured and pitching in one game is pretty low.
You're playing games anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So-
I mean, and but taking a 2-week All-Star break would be something that I think could be a possibility at that point.
You could ramp up the combine and the draft and stuff during that time as well.
And it would be good. Like, honestly, a 2-week break mid-season in this day and age of baseball might be a good thing anyways, because of the wear and tear on pitchers, and the way that's kind of increased over the years. A lot of teams are throwing guys on the IL for 2 weeks randomly in the middle of the season to get them rest. So it could end up being a good thing anyways. But then again, you'd kind of be disadvantaging yourself if you were playing in the Olympics. So
I think the tough ask is going to be, I bet it has to come with like a reduction in season length to like 154.
Maybe, yeah.
And then probably also a playoff expansion with expectation to get another 2 more teams in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
To where then that's where you're starting to get.
It's gonna be
complicated.
It's complicated. It's a lot harder than Gunnar Henderson saying, "Hey, we want to play. Let us play." Like,
well, the easiest thing is if you want to go play for the Olympics, go play for the Olympics, but you're not going to get paid for the game,
right? Which players can't. Well, the players can't do that anyways. They can't miss regular season games to do that. Like, it's just not.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be. I mean, like you said, that would have to be part of the agreement, right? The bargaining agreement is you can miss games to go play for the Olympics at a X cost to your base salary or something like that. That'd have to be it. If you're not going to make a big All-Star break and do all of the extra stuff. Yeah. So.
But yeah. So I guess that'll wrap it up for us here tonight. Enjoy the WBC, and we'll be back here in a couple weeks, and probably be previewing opening day here in a couple weeks. It's very close, very near. So thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.